touched Victoria's ears, and the trail seemed to light up farther ahead. They were nearly there. She swallowed hard as the gnocchi she had eaten twisted in her stomach. Maybe she should have gone home after dinner and let the medical examiner do his job. But she'd be greeted by a lonely house. The evening had been so wonderful between the food and conversation, she'd hated for it to end. She'd decided to tramp a few miles through Portland's 5,000-acre park to view dead teenagers. Was something wrong with her? The trail grew choppy with boot prints and small tire marks from the equipment hauled in to process the scene. They emerged into a clearing lit up with glaring lights, and the quiet hum of conversation stopped. The three of them halted and stared, scanning the surreal setting. Cops stood idle in small groups, observing, while crime scene techs crawled through the display. It looked straight out of a cheap horror film. Off the path, about 10 yards, 5 young women lay motionless in a lush bed of ferns, arranged like a wagon wheel, their heads at the center, feet pointed out. The image was simultaneously beautiful and evil. One prong of the wheel was missing, the girl who'd been rushed to the hospital. A cop thrust a log into Dr. Campbell's hands to sign. He barely glanced at it, his gaze locked on the eerie spectacle. "Lead all souls to heaven," Lacey whispered. Victoria Perez felt as if her hands were tied. These poor children still had the flesh covering their bones, unlike her usual subjects at work, but she still had a need to examine them to discover their story. 5 girls gracefully sprawled in the center of a clearing, their skin harshly exposed by the lighting the crime scene team had brought in. Each girl had long dark hair, and they all wore white dresses of different styles. Their hands were all crossed on their stomachs. There was neither blood nor immediate indicator of cause of death, just an unnatural grayness to their skin and lips. Poison? The girls looked asleep. No kiss would wake them. Victoria pushed her own long hair behind one ear, disturbed by the similarity between the girls' appearances. Why did they look and dress the same? She didn't usually attend a fresh death scene, but she helped wherever her skills were needed. She'd definitely put in her share of hours over the flesh of the freshly deceased and the not-so-freshly deceased. Digging in the burial pits of the mass executions in Kosovo had desensitized her to most situations. But when James had received the call, her instincts had kicked in. Death was her field, and she possessed a particular set of skills that could get answers for the questions the dead teens presented. She noticed the cops glanced their way, scoping out who'd arrived at the scene. None made eye contact with her. She'd busted enough balls at crime scenes to know they weren't her biggest fans. She didn't care. What mattered was that scenes were handled correctly. Mistakes weren't acceptable. She looked away from the sorrow on Lacey's face. The odontologist had a big soft spot that she wasn't afraid to reveal. Victoria kept her own sensitivity hidden deep. It wasn't that she didn't feel the sadness of the situation. She simply didn't feel it was professional to show it. And she worked better when she tucked away the feelings. "Who are they?" James muttered to the cop as he handed the log to Lacey to sign. "We don't know yet, Dr. Campbell," he answered. "There's no ID with any of the girls, no cell phones, no purses."
"Parents will be looking for their daughters soon," said Lacey. "They can't be over 18.
Victoria eyed the stature and build of the bodies, silently agreeing with Lacey's assessment. Parents would expect these kids to be in bed by midnight. She followed Dr. Campbell as he carefully stepped to the closest body and squatted next to a female tech, pulling gloves out of his small kit. Up close, Victoria could see the first girl had applied makeup to cover acne on her chin and wore black liquid eyeliner to give the popular cat-eye look. Someone's daughter. Dr. Campbell bent the girl's arm. "Rigor has started. Not fully set yet. Can you roll her onto her side for me, Sarah?" he asked the middle-aged woman, who nodded and gently shifted the dead girl onto her side. He pressed at the purpling skin on her shoulder blades, where gravity had guided the blood to settle once her heart had stopped.